From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Hey travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. Fares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820. Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Joco Community Radio Station here. This is Angelo Rocha. This is Vet for Vets, a show where we take local Johnson County veterans and pretty much people from Texas, and we give them an opportunity to talk about their life before, during, and after their military service. I found myself 2 veterans that are absolutely top notch, and they're doing something that a lot of people are not doing, and they're going to explain to you later. But today, my 2 special guests are Stacy James and Brett Bouyer, or he said Bouyer. You guys want to tell a little bit about yourselves, just a little bit for the people listening?
Well, I'm Stacy James. I was born and raised in Boyd, Texas. Currently work here in Johnson County. I am a teacher here for one of the local schools.
Nice.
And retired about 4 years ago from the Air Force and just trying to make things happen.
Well, all right.
My name is Brett Bouyer. I grew up right outside of Fort Worth, Brock, Texas, little town.
Brock, Texas, and Boyd. Damn, that's awesome. Okay, so every show, I talk a little bit about veteran health and why it's important. So if you are a veteran, listen to me. If you're watching me, right? Look, I'll put a camera too. If you're a veteran and you're going through a time of crisis, i.e., you're going through an addiction, you're having issues dealing with the marriage, you're having issues involving your PTSD, or you're depressed, and you're at a point where you feel like nobody is there to help you, like you feel like nobody is out there to reach their hand to you, to help you financially, to help you whatever. I just want to let you know there's people like myself, there's people like Stacy, and there's people like Brett that will answer your call any time of the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There really are people like us that will answer the call. The only thing you have to do is actually take the initiative to actually call us. We don't want you to be a statistic. We don't want you to be in that position to where we have to go to your funeral and then your family is in turmoil. Your family was absolutely destroyed for the rest of their life. Your mom, your dad, your sister, your cousins, your family members are all wondering why you didn't call them when all you had to do is reach out. So what are some of the things you do to get over some of the issues you have as a veteran?
The biggest thing for me, and I think Brett could attest to this, is having an understanding of what is actually available, right? I know when I got out of the military, it was one of those things where the camaraderie was lost, didn't really have a lot of, support. And I think when you get out, it was kind of one of those things where a lot of us just felt lost, right? Mm-hmm. And having that, and that's one of the things that we'll talk about here in a little bit, is having that camaraderie, having that peer support, and the knowledge and understanding of what is actually available. A lot of people just don't have that.
I agree. A lot of veterans don't understand what they have
Correct.
Available for themselves.
And they sometimes they get kind of lost in the process, and that's kind of what we'll talk about a little bit later.
Well, that's why there's people like you and there's people like Brett that kind of
correct.
They pull them in by the reins, and they say, "Hey, they say, "Hey, come in. We got you. But some of these people are so proud of themselves.
They are.
They're too proud to reach out. I know what I go through. I know my own things, and I have no problem reaching out to people if I got to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you do to kind of when you're dealing with it yourself? Because I know every veteran that I know deals with some kind of issue when it comes to depression, PTSD, some issues. What are some of the ways you deal with it?
Well, what I started doing is I'm married now, so that's a big deal.
Yeah.
When I was younger and I wasn't married, I didn't have a girlfriend or anything. I didn't have a real big core family that was around me.
Yeah.
I had my family, but I wasn't able to talk to anybody. No. So now I can have conversations with people that I've surrounded myself with. And it helps a lot just to be able to talk to somebody, just to be able to just let things go and they don't build up. So that's one big thing that I do is I'm able to talk to people now. I'm able to be honest with myself, look in the mirror and be honest with myself and quit lying to myself about the problems that I'm having. And then I can fix them. That's the goal, is to fix them.
Well, I'm glad you guys are on my show.
Thank you for having us.
No, you reached out to me and I love you guys. I love my veteran friends. Some veterans, that can't be here, that I would have loved to hear their stories, but they were having issues that didn't talk to anybody about. And I get emotional talking about it because I have some very, very close friends. We're talking about brothers.
Yep.
some people that I've literally, and I'm just not trying to take it. I've literally pissed and shit next to because we actually were that close.
Yeah.
And then we leave the military, we get out, and then I find out that they were going through some issues and they ended themselves.
Correct.
And then I didn't even get a chance to tell them that I loved them, or I didn't even get a chance to convince them not to put the gun in their mouth, or convince them not to to take the pill bottles, or whatever the way they ended themselves. So 22 veterans a day is an actual real statistic that a lot of people like us are trying to fix by having them have an avenue to talk. And that's why I have this show. So one of the ways we have this show, and one of the things we do, is we talk about kind of like where the veteran came from.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to ask you now. Where did you guys, you told me where you came from. You came from Boyd, and you came from Weatherford. Okay. Like, what did you do growing up? Like, was it kind of, we want to know who you are and how you turned out the way you are.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think I was just like any young man graduating from high school in a small town.
Yeah.
You kind of want to get out of the small town. I tried going to college and absolutely, hated it. Found myself skipping class and going to the movies. And it got to the point where mom was like, hey, as long as you were going to school, but this ain't working.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be a police officer, but at 18, you couldn't be a police officer.
No,
so
even now, I don't think you can do that.
You can't do it until you're 21. So the only option was, everybody kept saying, go into the military and be a military police officer. So I ended up joining the Air Force in 92 and became a security police officer.
Yeah.
Which later in 1997 changed over to security forces when they combined the career field.
Oh.
And, so that's how I got started. And I think a lot of other people have very similar stories where they just wanted to get away from, I grew up in a household where, my mom and dad fought a lot. Dad was very abusive. So it was kind of my way of escaping that and, trying to, follow a dream of being a police officer. And that was why I went in.
Okay. So what was your actual reason you joined, though?
Honestly, that was the reason. I
wanted college money. Oh
no,
my gosh. I figured
because
college money,
well,
that's usually the number one answer.
And it is because, but back then, for me, and a lot of my old school in my age, I'm 52 years old now.
Oh.
So, and I retired.
You look
4
good
years.
for a 52-year-old.
Well, wish my hair said that. But it's one of those things where honestly, college was the furthest. It was all about job and duty and being the best you could at your job. School was one of those things that came after. So
what about you, Brett?
Well, I had graduated in 2001 from a little tiny town called Lipan, Texas.
Lipan?
Yep.
Is that a real place?
It's a real place. Yeah. 21 kids in my graduating class. And I was actually going to college, and I was in my computer class putting together a computer. We had a TV on the wall, just a big old, like, you don't even have them anymore. It's probably 100 pounds. But we saw the first plane hit the World Trade Center, and then the second one, and I never went back to school. I joined the military, went to join the military, and never looked back.
That's fantastic. So where did you guys go to boot camp?
Lackland Air Force Base.
Lackland Air Force.
I went to Lackland as well.
The same thing here. What about your training? In the Army, it's called AIT, Advanced Individual Training. Where did you guys learn to do your job? Like, you went to where for your military police?
We call it tech school in the Air Force. And the first part of it for me was at Lackland. So I got to stay at Lackland.
Oh, you got lucky.
Yes, sir. And then we went from there. After we completed the initial security police training, they sent us to Air Base Defense, which was the Army side of things, and I ended up sending me to Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
Where
it's
I got
decommissioned now. It's no longer available.
Yep. And so they sent us there for basically the Army side of our career fields training. Our biggest piece was Air Base Defense. So we had to not only learn how to do the law enforcement piece, we had to learn how to do the Air Base Defense portion. That's low crawling, rucks, you name it. Okay. And that was where we kind of went. I think it might've been a little bit different for him.
It was a little different. So I came in and I was really open general when I came in. I knew that I was probably going to end up in security forces, but I went on and did all the pass tests and everything and passed them all. Then I went to Medina, which is another base kind of by Lackland, and I did some training there. And then once I got done with that, then I went to do security forces training. So, I mean, I kind of took a long route to get there. He kind of went straight into the security forces career field. So I ended up cross training into security forces later. That's how we ended up meeting. Was we got both stationed here at Carswell.
Oh,
so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it though. We both went through Lackland, both had all the fun down there. And I went through my actually basic training in the hottest part of the year. So June, July, and August.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I went through May and June.
Oh, yeah. Mine was Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Yep.
That sucker was hot.
Yeah.
I mean, middle of summer, August. Because I literally graduated in June. And August 1st, I was gone. I was in boot camp because that's how fast I was from after graduating. Because I wanted to join, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm an immigrant. And I love this country so much and what it's done for my family. I felt like I was obligated to join the military, which I think every single person that's not an American citizen, joining the military is a really good way to show your patriotism by joining.
It is.
And
And it
doing
helps
your time.
it helps you grow up a little bit.
It
too.
does, and it did that for me. You know, I was my accent was very thick, but because of the military and how they train you, by the time I was in E6 and got out, my voice was already.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I was more American than a lot of these liberal counterparts of mine that are literally like, it's like, you're an American. I'm more patriotic than you are. What the is going on here?
And that tends to be the case.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
unfortunate, but that tends to be the case.
So where were you guys first stationed? So you get your orders. Where did you go?
Well, I got stuck in Texas. So I ended up at Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas.
Oh, nice.
So then was there for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then put in the old dream sheet.
Yeah.
They call it a dream sheet.
Yeah.
Didn't think I was ever going to get anything. Then I ended up getting shipped to Aviano Air Base, Italy. And probably absolutely
How
amazing.
did you get that lucky?
I don't know. I tried staying. They wouldn't let me, and then they sent me to Wyoming to F.E. Warren.
Your hugs must have been fantastic in the Air Force.
They were absolutely amazing.
So what about you? Where were you stationed?
So my first duty station was actually a temporary duty assignment in Minot, North Dakota. It's a great place if you've ever been there.
Say Minot?
Minot, North
Dakota.
Minot.
It's cold.
65 degrees below zero in September.
Oof.
There's a woman behind every tree.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're single, it's a horrible place to go.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
There's 3 trees in the whole state.
Sounds like the Yuma, Arizona. Oh,
but yeah, that was my first duty station. It was a temporary duty station. I was there for a year, and then I joined my unit in Mildenhall, England. That's where
So do you guys have any interesting stories of actually being on your post? Got a lot of guys that, like me, I have a lot of MP stories. I know you got to have a few stories, Stacy.
Well, I will say this. I worked a lot of nukes. So I was in the nuclear side of our career field before they combined it.
I gotcha.
And
because you're security, you were
correct. So when I first came in, the career fields were split. We had law enforcement side, we had security, police, security side. They did a lot of, when you were law enforcement, that's all you did. On the security side of things, sometimes you got to do law enforcement, but most of the time you did aircraft security or nuclear security. So I got stuck doing a lot of nuclear security kind of thing. And just some of the jokes that we would pull on each other just to break the monotony of being in a weapon storage area. Or, we do radioactive drills on brand new airmen, come in, take a transfrisker out or one of the metal wands, have them go out and, check the doors for radiation, and it would, turn it on. They don't know what it is because they're new, and it would go off and it would vibrate. And then you would have them don their gear, and you'd have to take them up, and you'd hose them off at the front gate. Yeah. And there was all kinds of weird, crazy things that we used to do. You couldn't play cards on post, but we'd sneak cards. I mean, we would just do anything and everything to try and stay entertained.
Yeah. What about you? Do you have any funny stories of things you might have done?
Well, we would. So when we were stationed here in Fort Worth, we would go out to Fort Walters for months at a time and train, people. So we had this thing called the 40 Alpha.
God.
40 Alpha.
So the 40 Alpha was this fictitious piece of paperwork that we would send the new troops in.
Actually, it was an actual form.
Well, it was, but for us,
But it was fake.
It was fake for us. It didn't exist for us. We'd send troops into the barracks to where they would need to go get their 40 Alpha signed. So we tell them that there's a problem with their finance or something.
Yeah.
And then one of our buddies would just be bouncing on the bed, butt naked, and just screaming at them. And it built our camaraderie pretty well.
Yeah.
So I mean,
there was a lot of nakedness.
It's frowned upon now, but 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago,
yeah,
it was a whole different culture.
It was. Yeah, it's not what it is now. No, nobody. What's going on with the military? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I mean, we lived in open bays, so I mean, we did everything we could to just break up the monotony. I mean, it just, like you said, we were part of a traveling roadshow of instructors that would train anywhere between 150 to 350 deploying airmen, going overseas to fight in, Iraq first and then Afghanistan second. So, we did everything that we could to just try to, because we spent honestly more time with our military family than we ever did our own families.
Makes sense, because that's exactly what happened to me. Have you guys been in any conflicts?
Both of us were in Iraq.
No Afghanistan.
I went to Afghanistan, not long enough to get the Afghan campaign medal, but I was there a few times.
Okay, so do you guys? How was that little trip? Where did you guys go to first? I went to Ireland. Then from Ireland we went straight to Kuwait, and then from Kuwait we got on our tanks, our Humvees, Strikers. We went north.
So for us, we went to Ireland. Then we went to Qatar. Had a layover in Qatar.
Qatar, that's a nice.
Yeah, when we got off there, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. It was already like 105 degrees and 99.9% humidity.
Yeah.
I'd never felt anything like it, and I was like, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?" and then from there, they flew us into Kirkuk, and I know when I went, Kirkuk was in the middle of being mortared as we're trying to land, and every landing in that area was a combat landing in a C-130. And so we were in a holding pattern with very low fuel. And then they had a lull in the actual rocket attack. And then as we land, we start getting rocket attack again. And we're running off the C-130 into the shelters. So that was kind of their way of welcoming us to Kirkuk at the time.
It's pretty much par for the course when I landed too. We landed at night. That's about it. We went straight to work the next day.
Pretty much.
Put my stuff up and went to work literally 8 hours later.
So with conflicts and wars, battles come the sad part. I've had quite a few battle buddies who sadly made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Do you guys have anybody like that?
Well, we lost 16 defenders in the war on Iraq and Afghanistan. Doesn't sound like a lot, but for our career field,
no, it's any one is too much.
Yeah, for our career field, that's a lot. I mean, just because our whole purpose was base defense, and the majority of ours passed doing outside the wire operations, from actual combat or IEDs, sniper. We lost one of the first female airmen of our career field to combat, A1C Jacobson. And so it was a big game changer for us, but it kind of molded the way we look at conflict now for the Air Force and security forces. Is we realized that the Army Marines realized that they couldn't do it all. So they asked us and told us that we needed to do more. So we ended up taking basically a 5 to 10K footprint outside of the wire, and that was basically what we handled. So when any rocket attacks, we would be the ones going out trying to locate those. Basically, essentially trying to keep.
So you're QRF,
correct? Essentially keeping man portable rockets.
Yeah.
Away from the airfields, right? So that was our primary responsibility, is going out and doing that. Some of it was identifying folks, going out with some of our equipment that we'd go out and we would scan fingerprints, things like that, just trying to do some to identify folks. So we did a lot of that. I know for us at Kirkuk, we were a staging area for not only fighter aircraft, but for the Army, we had the 10th Air Force, or not 10th Air Force, the 10th Mountain there was there. And we did, our primary role there was base defense. And we dealt with a lot of rocket attacks. I think the biggest part for us there was responding to Army units that were getting hit outside the wire and then being rapidly brought back. Casualty collection points that are entry control points, dealing with casualties of the Army guys, bringing in their casualties. Having, I guess, suicide bombers off base attacking. And that's one of the big things that we had at Kirkuk is, you know, you had Sunnis and Shiites, and then you had Kurds. So it was a very popularized for Kurdish. And so they were targeted a lot. And there was one instance when I was there where a restaurant was bombed with a suicide bomber on the women and children side because they didn't eat together. Men and women didn't actually eat together. And so they had so many casualties there at the hospital in downtown Kirkuk could not handle it. So they started mass bringing these victims, men and children and women onto the base. And we became very overwhelmed for that. And it became a huge humanitarian crisis there. So
yeah, I've had my experience of seeing dead children, body parts. It's something, thinking about my daughters. Oof. It's something that hits on me hard every time.
There's not a whole lot you can do.
There's really nothing you can do.
Nope. And other than just.
So, man, just thinking back how emotional it was, all was. I remember seeing this one boy had been killed by a grenade, and a bunch of other kids. There was body parts everywhere. And this father took the jacket off his dead son and was holding on to it while it was still full of blood and was just hugging on his jacket. And then the father pulled away from the jacket and his whole face and body was just covered in the blood. But he didn't mind it because it was his own son. It's just, I still recall it to this day. You know, it doesn't bother me, but I still think to it, like at that time, like wondering how that father is now. You know, it's been 20 years now. I wonder what that son, you know, or that guy is dealing. Maybe he's had more children since then. I don't know. But okay, so somebody said, "Love what you gentlemen are doing. Keep up the great work." By a person named K Height 420.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so much. If once again, if you want to ask these gentlemen some questions, because the second half of this show, they're going to be talking about their team defenders, okay, which is fantastic little organization that I think you guys would want to be involved with, and they're going to be talking about it the second half. It's pretty crazy. So, getting back to your military conflict, was there something that sticks out in your mind that you might have seen while you were over there that you remember?
Oh yeah. So the thing that probably sticks in my mind the most is we actually were just having a meeting today at Carswell with the gentleman that I went to this with. I was there a little before Stacy was, but we had taken a mortar attack on the FOB, and we had mass casualties. I think we had 7 or 8, and there was whoever the Army personnel that was injured. He was catastrophically injured. He had a specific type of blood. So when we did all meds recall, we didn't have enough blood to get this person to keep him alive. I was the same type of blood, and my partner that was there. So I can remember sitting on the table as they took the blood straight out of my arm, and they stuck it into this young man that was sitting there dying on the table. And that's something that I took with me. And I still talk to my buddy like I did today. I still talk to him about it every now and then when I get a hold of him. And it's something that I know that affected him forever too.
Because that's one of the things that, you know, we worked a lot of entry control points in Kirkuk, and that we obviously, you know, if they weren't medevaced in with helicopters, they were brought in, you know, they were brought in by vehicles. a lot of times, these vehicles would roll in. You could see that they had taken an IED strike or something to that effect, and trying to get them in as quickly as possible. And when you hear about that, and you actually have your ambulance and fire department medical personnel meeting them at the gate, all operations stop at the gate, and it's just one of those things where, sometimes I hate saying this, but sometimes there was animosity between us as Air Force cops and those that were going outside the wires. We weren't sharing in that responsibility at the time. And there was a lot of, I guess you could say, what would you call it? Negativity between the branches, and
I got you.
And so, so it was just one of those things where a lot of times we wished like hell we could do more. And there was times where,
Yeah, that's the Oscar music I was talking about.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we get back, Stacy and Brett are going to continue talking about their lives after the military service. This is Angelo Rocha. Please stay tuned. Just give us about 2 minutes. Come right back. Join us.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Do. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Vet for Vets, a show where I take local Johnson County veterans and I pretty much have a chit chat with them. I discuss their life before, during, and after their military service. We have with us Stacy James. We have Brett Bouyer. It's because it sounds Bouyer. I love that name. Why not stick with Bouyer? I love that. That's great.
I think they were going into, my family went into hiding. We were part of the mafia. You laughed. I'm pretty sure that's true.
Okay, before we get started on the second half, I just want to mention that Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on all Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more at JocoCommunityRadio.com. This episode and more are brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. Be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. That's THETIFFIE.com. So Well, we're gonna go and continue our story about what was happening. So, do you guys have any other stories you want to share about maybe something you might have encountered, something you might have dealt with? Heartbreaking, sad, funny, whatever it is that you guys want to talk
Yeah,
about.
I mean, if so, we go back to Kirkuk, or Fob Warrior. It was called Fob Warrior. It was in Kirkuk. I mean, so the base
FOB is forward operating base
forward
for the
operating base.
non-military
Yep.
people.
Yeah. So forward operating base Warrior. That's where. So that's where we did our dual deployment.
Yeah.
I went in first, and then he came in and relieved me. I was there a couple other times in Iraq and a couple of times in Afghanistan as well. But so we were there at the heart of the IED world, when everything
I know firsthand.
right as the MRAPs were coming along. So most of the patrols were all done in a Humvee, and then the MRAPs started coming, and we had a little more protection. But so I can remember one day being on a QRF on the base, just roaming around our Humvees, and then literally within, what was it, probably 300 meters of one of our gates to roll out, an Army patrol got hit. And what they had used was they'd used the battery bank from one of our sensors that they had low crawled up and stolen, and then put it on EFP, an explosively formed penetrator, and it had gone through the Humvee, literally within probably another 200 meters of a tower. It wasn't being manned at the time; they were doing a switch over, so it had sat there dormant for probably 8 hours. But they were going to man it again, so they could have rotated because of manning issues. And I can remember hearing it, seeing it, responding to it, and literally trying to go out the gate, trying to get the locks unlocked, and being ordered to stand down by the base commander as the Humvee is on fire, and they're
You could
screaming
see
for us
it.
to help us.
And we were the quickest reaction to, and even the fire department, was there, and they're asking for help. They're actually running down the road asking for help. And there was nothing, our leadership wouldn't let our QRF go outside the base. And it ended up putting a bitter atmosphere between the Army and the Air Force there, and it continued, honestly, and for a while. So it stuck with us because all we could do is sit there and watch, and it was the most heartbreaking situation that I could ever think my guys, right? And it was just terrible.
So how many years did you actually serve, and how many tours, if you want to talk to people about your tours and how many years you served?
I did 22 and a half. I just retired in 2020. I had obviously a break in service.
Yes.
Went in, got out, and then went back in. So
what about you, Brett?
So I enlisted in 2001. I stayed in the delayed entry program for a little while, and then I ended up getting out officially, medically retired at 2014. So I didn't make it as long as Stacy did, but I was probably about to get out anyway, regardless. Just, things were starting to change. We'd drawn down from the war, so the force shaping was starting to take place.
So you get out of the military, you're in retirement mode, you're in medically retired mode. How did you guys end up getting back? How did you guys converge together and created this nonprofit? If you want to tell this story about how you created this nonprofit that's practically changing lives from what I'm reading.
Well, we're trying. It started off, honestly, as a sports organization that we created a team of, I think there was 12 of us, 12 security forces instructors. We lost a fellow instructor, Colonel Charles Bolin.
Yeah.
He was one of our chaplains, and we did a lot of the training for him and his students, if you will.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And when we lost him, he was like a father figure to a lot of us. And when we lost him, it left a void, that because he was honestly, to some of us, our fathers that we didn't have. And when we lost him, we created this team, and we participated in another nonprofits, and that's how we kind of got into this, was
Yeah.
Carry the Load. When we started going to Dallas, people were like, hey, we noticed that when you're out doing your rucking events, that y'all do a really good job of kind of talking to people, and
You're interacting, you're
getting
personable.
getting people to open up about how they're feeling, and y'all should really think about creating a nonprofit and doing peer support and stuff like that. And so my original co-founder, Lance Keller, we lost him last year to cancer, and he was our co-founder. And Lance was like, he kept, hey, you guys we need to go and be a nonprofit, and we're doing so much for so many people. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go to that. I don't want that headache. It's just, let's just do what we're doing. We're having fun. Well, when he passed, he's like, hey, I really want you guys to really think about turning this into a nonprofit and start really, doing the things that we're doing, but at a much bigger scale. So myself and a couple of other buddies, we were like, hey, you know what? Let's do this. And that's exactly what we did. And we Team Defenders is what we called it. We're a bunch of defenders. And it started out as, supporting just Air Force cops, but it's kind of branched out to something much bigger than that. And we realized that out of our own struggles, I tried taking my own life in 2007. Brett has, he'll tell his little story, but it was just one of those things where we realized that we didn't want to talk. We kind of were internalizing everything, and we didn't ask for help. And we realized that's where we had to teach others how to do that. And that's where we're at now.
So what is Team Defender's goal? What is their prime goal?
Their prime goal is to provide peer support and mental health first aid services to veterans and first responders and their families.
How does one get in contact with Team Defenders?
You can reach out through Facebook at Team Defenders, or you can go to our website, www.teamdefenders.org, and you can just reach out. Telephone number goes directly to my cell phone. Emails, it goes directly to us, and any one of us can answer the emails. You can text us, message us on Facebook, and that's how it works.
You heard Stacy, right? You go to your social media, pretty much, I guess, all of them.
Right now, we've kind of stuck with the Facebook, and
okay.
LinkedIn portions. We've kind of stayed away from some of the others just because we spend a lot. We have personal lives too, so it's kind of hard to maintain.
I understand
5 social media accounts.
Yeah.
So we've kept it really simple for everybody.
Okay, so so that's your goal. How has it been so far since you created the nonprofit?
It's skyrocket. It's just a rocket ride right now.
We
started it, and then we've been doing this officially as a nonprofit for 10 months, and we've gone from being 2 guys in a living room to, we're part of the Veterans Court here in Tarrant County. We are in other nonprofits,
partnerships.
So what are some of the partnerships? Because maybe I might reach out to some of these guys, come on this show, and have them come on here and explain their deals.
Oh yeah. So one of the partners that we use, it's a company called Gallant Few.
Gallant Few, okay.
GallantFew.org. His name is Carl Monger. What he does is he allows us to send him anybody that we come in contact with for free counseling. He's a certified counselor. We're not counselors. What we do is we teach a program called Mental Health First Aid. We teach people how to look for the signs of crisis, but then I can use the tools that are given to me through MHMR through the program to help get you help.
Well, that's usually the first sign is just identifying when somebody's having an issue, because like, I'm quite sure Stacy knows who you are as a person, and if you show any signs of indifference the next day, he knows something's up with you.
Exactly.
And I'm quite sure it's vice versa. I haven't met you yet, but I just today is the first time I'm meeting you. But I'm quite sure if I knew you, I would know the signs. and just being able to identify from somebody you've never met.
Yep.
Just by the way they're talking, the way they come off, I can see why you guys are doing this. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, and so what we try to do is we try to come from a position of empathy, not sympathy. Stacy told you pretty much what happened with him in '07. So I had my own battles. I had my own battles with alcohol and drugs, prescription pills, and I got addicted to them after I had knee surgery. And I had to eventually check myself into, while I was in the military, into a rehab facility. I spent 64 days in a detox facility in Baylor All Saints at the 8th floor.
Do you guys have children?
I do now.
I do, yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 and a stepson.
How old are they?
My son is 34.
Okay.
I have a daughter who is getting ready to turn 16. And then I have a stepson. He was about to turn 6.
So you're telling me about 2007, right? Because one thing that I love about talking to people like yourself is what you tell me about what happened in 2007. If I was there around the time you were there in 2007, I would try to talk to you better than what you went through.
Yeah.
Just trying to make yourself feel a little bit better what was going on. How would your kids feel right now if you had done the deed in 2007? How do you think their lives would be right now?
Well, my daughter, she had just been, she'd just been born.
Yeah.
And I didn't know my son. It was a unique situation.
Yeah, I
didn't meet my son until 2009. So, obviously, knowing what I know now and dealing with and working with folks who have lost family members and friends to suicide.
Yeah.
It leaves a void that can never truly be replaced. And,
I agree.
And I think, honestly, looking back at that, that would have been a void that my daughter would never have. She would probably have someone that would eventually came in and filled that role, but there's always that doubt, right? Of, who is my dad kind of thing, and who would that person be? And that's really why we're doing what we're doing, is because if we can get to someone
like yourself,
like myself, like I was then, and provide the things that I wished I'd had, we can truly make an impact. Because a lot of times everything's built out of anger, frustration, fear, lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And when you start having all of those, and it gets compounded along with, all the real life things that can happen when you get depressed, and then it starts affecting your job and your family. And next thing you know, you're going through a divorce and you've lost your job. And so what we've done is we try to come in, we teach people how to recognize the signs and symptoms to be able to have that early intervention, even if they've already started experiencing it, to be able to have that hard conversation with them without it, becoming a negative conversation. And then the big piece is walking that path with them from start to finish. There's a lot of organizations out there to help, but it's fill out this form and we'll get a hold of you. Go to, make you an appointment, and you've got to wait, 3 weeks to 4 months for an appointment. So what we do is we find, if we can't help you specifically directly, we find other nonprofits that can, and we built that network to where we can get you help of some kind to get you through until you reach that appointment that you've made.
Yeah.
And it's about accountability. It's picking you up and taking you to your appointment if you need that. It's, making sure that you're, if you can't make your house payment, let's find a way to make that house payment so it's less stress off of you. But holding them accountable. And that's the piece where that peer support comes in. And I think that's one of the things that's missing the most out of all the nonprofits that are out there, is finding that peer support that takes away the stigma of everything. It's just like a law enforcement officer, right?
Yeah.
They seek mental health. It's
All the time.
almost a career killer. It can be. They're afraid that it's going to get their badge and their gun and take it away.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true, right? I'm a perfect example of that. I tried taking my own life. I could have easily ended my career in 2007, but I actually had folks that I didn't realize were willing there to help, because I didn't ask for help.
Yeah, you didn't
but they
ask
also
for it.
didn't come to me, right?
That
It
makes
wasn't
sense.
until after I did it that I realized if I'd have just said something, they would have. But I don't want people to wait until something happens to say, hey, well, I'm willing to help you. I'm telling you right now that we're willing to help you right now, not when it happens, but right now before it happens, and we'll get you where you.
Were you the ultimate motivator for you starting this organization?
I would say yes.
Like yourself, like you looked at yourself and you're like, you know what, I need to do something. This was
almost, 2012, 2013 is when we kind of, the man who we lost in 2012 is the man who helped me walk my path. He got on a plane from California, told me, hey, give me 8 hours. Just give me 8 hours. And he got on a plane and he flew the last flight from California to Texas, got a rental car and came to my apartment. And he took all 30 days of his leave to spend with me, to walk me through the darkness that I had been facing for months, that led me to putting a gun in my mouth and trying to pull the trigger. So I chose, I want to create a bunch of Colonel Bolins to walk the path with those that are out there, because I believe.
Have you ever tried using his name for some kind of award? Not award, but something to do with his name, like the Boland
we actually,
Foundation or something like that.
We actually haven't. What we do is we share a story anywhere we go. I will tell you that starting a nonprofit, it's like starting any business. It's probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done.
It is, because you technically can't charge anybody anything. It's all on donations.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, it's also not our full-time job.
So make your case. You have quite a few people listening on social media. Make your case why they should donate to you, and how can they donate to you, and what can you do to make sure that the donations are used properly for the right reasons.
Yeah, so I can tell you. So if you go to teamdefenders.org, or if you go to
teamdefenders.org, Team Defenders,
or you go to our Facebook page, there's ways to donate there. There's buttons you can click. You can come to any of our events. If you hit our events page on our website, it'll show you where we're going to be.
Teamdefenders.com. If you're listening, and go to .org. I'm sorry,
yep.
Teamdefenders.org, and you go to that website if you want to know about their Team Defenders organization. It's literally changing people's lives. You haven't heard about it. You're hearing about it now. Sorry.
So as far as the money wise goes, we don't take a dime for ourselves. We're a pretty small knit group so we've got 4 members pretty much. One's out of California. And then we got another one here that deals with our veterans court and deals with some homelessness stuff that we do. Will and Ron. And you can see them on our website as well.
Yeah. And Ron's out of Florida. So he's actually our number 2.
You're in national.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically, but we operate mostly out of here, because there's a lot of work, a ton of work that we've discovered that's not finished here, that needs to be done, and it keeps us more than busy.
Have you tried opening up different branches of the Team Defenders? I.e., one can do homelessness, one can do PTSD.
That is currently where we're at right now. Okay. So. Like Brett's kind of honestly, he goes and seeks out. I call him a seeker. He goes out and he finds veterans that just need help.
So he's the missile.
And of course, I'm the one that goes on and finds us ways of doing different things. We have Will Meeks. He's our veterans coordinator for the Tarrant County Courts Veteran Court. And then of course, Ron, he's holding down the fort in Florida, hoping that once we get well enough established here, he's going to start kicking off our next chapter, which will be in Florida. And so he's kind of in a holding pattern there, but we're always looking for veterans who can provide, time, right? Because it does take a lot of time.
It does. There's a lot of people who are busy people.
It's just like today, it started off with Brett going and checking on a veteran, this morning, who we're taking to an appointment tomorrow for housing. He's losing his house in 6 days?
6 days.
Oh my goodness.
And the city's condemning his home. So in 6 days, he's going to be homeless. So we've been scrambling for the last 31 days trying to find him a place to live. So we've got an appointment tomorrow with another nonprofit who is going to help us try and do that. Yeah. We actually went today prior to here to downtown Fort Worth and visited some of the shelters downtown Fort Worth, just to try and get a feel for what
It's
it
bad.
is. It is.
It's a third world country.
It's very bad.
And of course, the director of the Veterans Presbyterian organization that's there, Patriot House. Yeah, when we walked in, she was kind of shy at first, kind of like, okay, who you guys? She practically started crying when we left because a lot of these folks, a lot of these places are not getting the help that they need,
or the financing.
And we told her, hey, you know what? Send us a list of stuff that you need, and we'll do our best to try and fill those needs. But like I said, our peer support, it's walking. When we get a veteran, that's one of the things we pride ourselves is we get a veteran, we make contact with that veteran, and then we walk them through whatever process they need. If they need help getting their VA disabilities, the young man that we're working with for taking to the point, he didn't have any VA disability. So he got so frustrated trying to fill out paperwork and stuff like that. So we sat down, took him down there and had it. We helped him with that.
Yeah. See, a lot of people need that. A lot of veterans don't know, or they just are impatient. They can't.
Well, they get frustrated. They get frustrated. And, you call, I hate to say this, but you call a nonprofit. A lot of times they don't answer their phones.
No, because they're nonprofit. And it's all volunteer work.
And they want you to fill out you call the phone, we're going to answer.
Yeah.
And, we're going to get to you as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
And so
you got 3 minutes, Stacy, 3 minutes.
Go ahead, Brett.
State your case. Just talk about Team Defenders. Just keep blabbing and talking and just keep I want the people that are watching and listening to know what Team Defenders is, because this is a real thing. This is not just some something on the street where somebody just walks by and goes, I don't want your pamphlet. State your case. Tell people why they should donate.
Yeah, so the biggest portion of our donations go to the program that we teach for mental health first aid. We've adopted the national standard from MHMR to teach the mental health first aid course, and it's to teach people to look for crisis and to help. We're trying to drive the suicide rate down from 22 a day to the hopefully zero. And it's we're shooting for the stars, but we can get it done. And so that's where the bulk of our funding goes to. It's expensive to send instructors to train the courses, but then those instructors are able to go out and they go to the police departments, they go to the military units, they go to in the community, to the American Legions, to any veteran place, and they teach you the skills that you need to take back to your workplace, to your home, and now you know what to look for when your family members or your work your work family is going into crisis, and to stop it before it happens. And then the peer support part, like Stacy was saying, is all the things that we can alleviate from your stress that would in the long run cause you to get into a crisis.
Yeah.
If we can get your bills paid, we never give money directly to a veteran or a first responder. We always pay it specifically to a bill. Yeah. So if that bill is a phone bill or a car payment, a lot of us car payments,
things happen. I get that.
We can generate the funds, whether we pay it ourselves or we use the veteran peer network that we're in, and our network that we've built through social media to be able to get that off their plate.
So you guys have been networking.
Well, it's all about network.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And that's where, we're a firm believer. All the nonprofits that we work with are all vetted. We do it personally. We want to make sure that the money that they're bringing in is actually going to where it goes. Ours goes, we received a grant from MHMR, and they basically cover $1,200. It's a $2,200 instructor course. They pay the $1,200. We pay the other $1,000.
Yeah.
And so that's where the bulk of our funds go, is training instructors to go out, and all of our classes are free. So, and we all we ask is, hey, we just need a minimum of, we don't have a minimum. We'll teach one person, but we can teach a maximum of 30. And as long as you have a place to set up, we bring everything and we sit down and we teach the class.
That's fantastic. So that's teamdefenders.org. Again, that's teamdefenders.org. Okay, this is Angelo Rocha. This is Vet for Vets. We're pretty much ending the show right now. Brett, Thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
for
me,
having us.
Stacy.
Absolutely.
You
Thank you.
guys are more than welcome to always come back again. Just all you got to do is send me a message on
Roger that.
social media and say, hey, we have something big news. We want to be on the show to talk about it.
Yes, sir.
And then I'll let you guys come on the show and talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you guys. If you're a veteran, once again, please reach out to other veterans and get some help, okay? Good night.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godly, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neat in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available